Hi, everybody. Angel here. Hope you're doing great. And today I'm super excited to speak with Chris, the Raw Advantage, and we'll get started very soon. Thanks for joining either live or on the replay. And if you've missed some of my prior Instagram live conversations, they're on my IGTV, so you can check those out. I have over 100 episodes, so I hope you enjoy them. Super cool guests from all over the world. And it would be great to know where you're tuning in from today. So if you want to let me know in the comments, that would be awesome as well. So we'll get started momentarily. Also, I invite you to, thanks so much for joining. I invite you to check out the links in my bio. I have some cool links there. Lots of free information on plant-powered nutrition and my books that are on Amazon, my coaching program, lots of recipes from creators all over the world, and lots of other free information, some free downloads as well, so you can check those out when you get a chance.
Hello, how you doing?
Hi there.
I'm doing pretty darn good.
Fine, how are you?
Yeah, I can hear you
Awesome. Can you
awesomely.
hear
Can
me
you hear me good?
okay?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. So I want to say hi to everybody who's joining
Hey
either
guys.
live or on the replay. Thank you so much for joining us. I also want to, of course, thank you, Chris, for taking the time out of your busy
More than my
schedule to come
pleasure.
and chat with us. And I want to, awesome. And I want to invite everyone to put your questions and comments down below for Chris, and he'll be happy
Absolutely.
to answer as we go along. So, Chris, before we jump in, I have to say that when I stumbled across the raw
Yeah.
vegan lifestyle about 3 years ago. You were one of the first people who I
Oh,
discovered
cool.
through
That's awesome.
YouTube. So you were you were very instrumental in my journey, on my journey, and I don't know if your ears are ringing, as they say sometimes, but sometimes, for example, when I'm coaching people or I'm in a clubhouse room, some people come in and say, "Well, how can I build muscle on a plant diet?" And I'm like, "Well, there's this guy called Chris, the Raw
Well,
Advantage. Go check him out. He has a lot of
I'm flattered by
muscle."
that. Definitely
So
flattered by that.
just just so you know, I do speak about you, and so I'm very very grateful and thankful that you are coming on today. And so we have loads to cover, and the little scribbles at the
Okay.
bottom are just my little notes. So don't worry about it. It's just to keep me on track here. And so I think we should just jump right in. So my first question for you, Chris, is if you would share with us your vegan journey, how you started, and how
Oh
you
man,
ended up to where you are
how much
today.
time do we have here? It's been a okay,
We
okay.
have an
Yeah,
hour.
because my personal story, I've told it in 5 minutes and I've told it in a half hour or longer. But I'll take the kind of the smaller version maybe. But realistically, it all started because of my interest in skateboarding and athleticism. I've been skateboarding since I was 5, 6 years old. I'm 41 now. For a long
Wow.
period of time, it was like by
Wow.
far my biggest inspiration and the main reason I did anything. I graduated high school early so that I could move and further my skateboarding. I was a sponsored amateur in my late teens and early 20s, and by the time I was 17, I moved to Vancouver, Canada. 18, I moved to Edmonton, Alberta because the legal drinking age was 18. And I'll be honest, I was a bit of a
I was gonna
yeah, yeah,
say,
oh
at
no,
least
for
you're
sure, straight up.
honest.
Like I was a dirtbag, like drinking, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, a bit of a weed hound, and eating bacon double cheeseburger pizzas every day, and I mean, because that started really heavily when I was 18, and my time before that living with my parents was much cleaner, much healthier. I was a lot cleaner when I was still in school. As soon as I left school, I was like smoking and drinking, like more, right? And I fell apart pretty quick. By the time I was 19, I was depressed. My joints hurt. I wasn't recovering as well. I was drinking instead of having it just to have fun and parties. I was drinking to numb pain and to disassociate with what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And so I just remember getting to a place where literally I didn't really want to exist anymore. I'd go to bed wanting to not wake up, and I knew I needed to find something. And the first thing I found on my health journey or journey back to health was a VHS tape in Walmart of all places, and it was a Rodney Yee
Yeah.
intermediate yoga power yoga tape. So that kind of woke me up. I started doing yoga every day and reading about yogic literature, which kind of sparked an interest in vegetarianism and in nutrition and its connection to the body, mind, and spirit. It slowed me down a little bit in terms of being a little bit more deliberate, a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more deep in my breath work, and a really a interest in nutrition and yoga was born. And shortly thereafter, I was in my hometown, Saskatoon, and I went to a used bookstore because I wanted to find something specifically on nutrition. And one book just really jumped out. It's called Fit for Life, and that would have been in like 1999. And it's amazing because that's now, I guess, 22 years ago. Once I read that book, some of the key concepts. I'm not sure if you know that book. Do you know the book Fit for Life?
Many people have
It's
spoken
great,
about it,
and
but I have
just
not
to
read it
anyone
yet.
listening, it's one of those books that I would recommend anyone and everyone read. It's very broad. It's not just like one style, but it does go over many really key concepts that have been time tested and true. And some of the things that really jumped out to me is to look at fruit as like an amazing food group and a great meal. And one of the things they recommended was having fruit on an empty stomach for breakfast, or empty stomach for lunch. But really, it started with eat fruit for breakfast, talked about food combining, talked about moving towards more fruits, vegetables, vegetarian, vegan, raw foods, but it wasn't like dogmatic, like you must do this. It's just like get in more and do it on an empty stomach and understand food combining and all these things, right? And it is a holistic style book, so it just blew my mind open. I can honestly say in the last 22 years, I've probably had about 5 or 6 cooked breakfasts. Like I just took that on. I was just like, I'm just gonna do fruit for breakfast, and
Yeah.
I won't lie, for a period of time, I found that, pears for breakfast was the best cure for a hangover. It was like, so my transition was, not immediately to just like super clean, ultra healthy, but over about a 4.5 year period of time, I went from, again, like smoking, drinking, eating bacon double cheeseburger pizzas to high raw vegan. And all that time, that 4.5 year period where I let go of certain things, tried them again, I read more books, I had my nose deep in nutrition and chefing and making food for friends, more whole foods, more plant foods. I did some of my first water fasts and some of my first kind of like just whole food cleanses and stuff like that. And I progressively felt better and better and was just pointed towards more and more raw food. And it all kind of accumulated at the point where I was living in Vancouver. I was still skateboarding. I was sponsored. I was feeling better and better. But nutrition was becoming as big of a passion as skateboarding. And I truthfully wanted to be a chef. I was thinking, like, hey, I want to be a vegan chef. But I couldn't find any vegan chefing schools at that time. This is like 2003. And I instead decided to go with my secondary choice, which was holistic nutrition. So I went to a school in Vancouver called the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, and it was a 1 year full-time program. And basically, at the time that I started that, that's when I went like full on vegan. For a couple months before that, I was still having some raw butter because I heard that was like really good, and occasionally fish because that was like the last meat I gave up. And but as soon as I got into the course, I went full on vegan, and I was raw till dinner, what a lot of people say raw till four, you know? And I started really
Yeah.
reading books on raw foods,
Yeah.
specifically like Nature's First Law, and the Sun Food Diet Success System. And I really had this feeling that I wanted to be all raw, but I didn't quite understand how to do it. And about halfway through my schooling, I went to a festival called the Taste of Health, which was a vegan festival. But there was three raw vegan teachers there that were doing courses all day, and um, one was Brendan Brazier, the other I believe was Tanya Kay, and the other was Dr. Doug Graham. And I missed Doug's first talk, but I went to his second talk, blew my mind open. Went to his third talk, blew my mind open more. It's like one of those moments, just like the Fit for Life book, where every single moment was just like, yes, yes, yes. Like he was literally glowing. Everything was just saying, yes, this is the way. Um, Afterwards, I talked to him and let him know, like, hey, I'm an athlete. I want to be a professional skateboarder. And this just makes sense. I'm really interested in nutrition. And he was really gracious, gave me like an hour of his time, just sharing everything he could. That day I went raw. I went raw that night. The next day, I remember walking
Beautiful.
towards the festival, or the Taste of Health again for the second day, and my heart just blew open. And the reason there being, I could say, well, okay, it's my first day raw, and all of a sudden it just like put me on my path. But the reality was, before that, I was in nutrition and I was eating just for my skateboarding. But that at that moment when I found Doug and I found the raw food diet, I think I really did kind of meet my purpose. And it was then that I was like, this is what I want to do. Because I was in school for nutrition, but I had zero implication or zero intention to actually use it. Like I wasn't gonna, become a nutritionist. I was just trying to learn how to eat healthier so I could skateboard more. And in that
Right.
moment, though, I knew like skateboarding's awesome. It's gonna help me reach other people. I'm gonna continue doing it. But this is what I'm here for, and this is what I want to share. And I just remember like walking down the streets. I was actually going to go buy some bananas, and I remember just crying walking down the street, just looking at everyone as spirit, as love, and just it was definitely a hard opening, and people would say a Satori moment, And I went back to the Taste of Health. I talked to Doug again, went to all three of his lectures. It was an amazing day. I can tell you that actually just this year I finally went pro for skateboarding. Um, it's with a friend's
Oh my
skateboard company, so
gosh.
it's not like it's the biggest American company in the world or something, but it is my own board, and I'm still doing it at a level that I'm very happy with. And yeah, so that was really it. And I mean, again, that was what 18 years ago now. And at that time, I finished my schooling. My one teacher in my school told me that if I stayed on this raw diet for more than 2 years, I'd die, because raw foods are cleansing foods. They're not building foods. Here I am 18 years later, um, thriving. Yeah. And
Thriving,
I've been through a lot.
thriving.
I've fractured my back. I've broken my wrist 3 times, broken ribs. I was in a car accident, and, like almost died. And all my rehab specialists and doctors are very, very impressed by how fast I heal and how well I heal. Um, and yeah, it's amazing because now 18 years later, I've co-written books, or book, not books, book, with Dr. Doug Graham. I've spoke from the same stage as him many times,
Amazing.
stayed at his house, and met many, many other people who have just been so changed by the power of raw foods and holistic health. And I just feel really, really blessed that the last 12 years, this is all I do full time. Is I travel, I share, I connect, and grow together.
Oh my gosh. That's a beautiful story. I mean, I know you went through a lot to get there. But sometimes, I hear people say, make your mess your message, and I think that's what you're doing. So, God, I mean, as I said, at the top of this, I've been inspired by you, and I've learned a lot from you. So, yeah, thank you so much. And we have a commenter. The first time I even considered vegan was Brendan
Nice.
Brazier
Brendan's
seven
awesome.
years
Yeah,
ago.
I
All right.
I had him over for dinner once, and we talked about a bunch of stuff because he was living out in Vancouver, and he was really inspiring to me as well. I got his main book, and yeah, I've been inspired by so many people, but I gotta say, Doug really just like blew my mind and helped open up my heart. It was pretty amazing.
I would say like every like week or so, I hear his name. I'm serious. Like, because of course I'm in a lot of, conversations about veganism and raw veganism. And I mean, Doug's name comes up so often. We have a commenter. This is
Oh,
such a
thank
moving
you.
story,
Back to Balanced
Chris.
Nutrition. Appreciate that. Doug, he's probably helped create more leaders, for lack of a better term, in the raw food movement than anyone. And he's often considered the papa or the father of the modern raw food movement, because it's been around for a long, long
Right.
time. And, he's just, I
Mm-hmm.
think, put it together in a way where science meets common sense, which also meets nature. And it just is packaged together so well that when people read the book, the 80-10-10 diet, which I've probably read a couple hundred books on human nutrition, on athleticism, on like all these things. And I honestly think it's the best book out there on human nutrition and holistic health. And I can't think of almost anyone that I know who has read it who hasn't just felt like, holy cow, like this makes so much sense, and their whole paradigm shifts. It was one of those really powerful books.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
I feel real blessed by Doug. He's awesome.
Yeah. Amazing. So we have a commenter. I went to CSNN as well, was also given non-evidence-based nutrition
Yeah,
info on
absolutely.
veganism. Yeah, well, that
For sure.
continues
And
even
CSNN,
today.
like
So,
I learned a
you know,
lot there. I really appreciate my teachers and my time that I spent there. The way I look at it just touched on a lot of things, went in depth into certain things, but it really was truly kind of a holistic experience that prepares you for connecting with others on that holistic life journey. And the things I learned there are invaluable, but strictly nutrition speaking, like I think I learned a lot more outside of it. And realistically too, like
yeah,
you could go to school for a 6-year degree and know very little on certain aspects of nutrition that I think hold a lot more validity than what the common mainstream education about nutrition is.
totally. And also because you've kind of run the gamut in what we would call all the diets. And so I think that you yourself, you've been able to, experience it and experiment. Yes, of course, you probably didn't see this as an
Yeah.
experiment along the way. It was your life. You were just in it, like up to your eyeballs. But the point is, like, it's really, I think you're speaking from firsthand experience
Yeah.
and not just from books and not just from courses and college degrees and all of that. So I think that's really cool. We have a commenter. It was a good intro and gateway for further education. Exactly what
I
you're
think
saying.
I think it is so important to learn from
Yeah.
experience, but not only the experience of yourself, but the genuine experience of
Yeah.
others. And what I've always striven to do,
Yes.
or strove to do, I don't know how to say it, but is to learn from those who have hardships, but also from those who have come through hardships and who have
Mhm.
succeeded. And at the same time to stand on the shoulders of giants, like Doug and like others who have been doing this for a long period of time,
Mhm.
and see those commonalities,
Yeah.
and it really is amazing because we can glean so much insight and so much extra breadth of knowledge through listening and hearing from those other people, so.
I agree. So, Chris,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
takes us to Sweden, which is where you where
yeah.
you
Do I
are
have a
currently
flag? Where's
located.
my flag?
So,
It's somewhere.
yeah, uh, uh, don't worry. Well, I have the flag pinned below here. So, how on earth did you decide to go
My
to
sweetie.
Sweden?
My Swedish sweetie. I was in Bali just on a skateboard and surf trip. I guess it was just over 4 years ago now. I arrived in Bali, I believe. Was that New Year's there? It was the end of 2017, early 2018. And
Mm-hmm.
I was out there with a
Mm-hmm.
friend and skateboarding and surfing and all this stuff. And at that time, we were preparing for the second Costa Rica Fruit Festival. And the head of the festival told me, hey,
Mm.
the chef from the first festival lives in Bali, and you should link up with him and see what's going on. And so I connected with him, and he actually owns a restaurant out there, Ben, and it's, I'm spacing it, but I'll get back to that. Uh, but he had
Don't
a
worry.
raw food chef training course out there in Bali, and I was invited as a guest to their Christmas and then New Year's Eve chef party, where basically all the students who are going through a chef training they made a feast for each holiday, and I was able to just come and enjoy the food that everyone was making for the celebrations. And it was there that I met Camilla, my sweetie. She was out there training as a raw chef, and she was already a vegan chef and a yoga teacher. And, you know, truth be told, we met, we exchanged some smiles and some lighthearted comments. And, you know, I remember she was making raw bread and raw butter, which I found incredibly innovative because I'd never had raw butter before, that was for sure. And, you know, we didn't talk much after that, but a couple months later, all of a sudden I got a message in my Instagram inbox and we started talking back and forth. She just had some questions, and that turned into us talking more and more, just typing. And then that turned into us doing lives. And, you know, long story short, she was already coming down from Sweden to the States, and we figured, hey, you're close enough. Why don't you come down to Saskatoon? So she came to Saskatoon. We spent a couple weeks together. We just started dating, and then we got into a car accident, and that was a big one. And
Oh,
it's
that's
amazing
the
because
big
we were
one,
only
the big
dating for about 4 days
accident.
before the accident. And in some
Oh
ways,
my
it was a blessing, a
heavens.
mixed blessing, of course, because I was about to leave for a whole bunch of traveling and festivals, and she was about to go back to Sweden, and who knows exactly what would have happened. But from there, we were linked at the hip for a year and a half, and she lived in Canada, and we both went through rehab together. And in that year and a half, we've been through more than probably most people in a few years, you know. Uh, and so it was
I agree.
amazing experience, despite some hardship, of course. And um, yeah, kind of restructured a lot of things during that time. Actually, too, we both enrolled in Dr. Rick and Karen Dina, their mastering raw food nutrition educator course, which was awesome. A full year course where they really go deep into the science of plant-based vegan and raw vegan nutrition. Amazing teachers as well, and that was amazing. That was a full year. So we did that while we're healing together. I created my first online course myself called the Raw Vegan Lifestyle Success System and launched that. And then she came back here to start work. And a couple months later, I joined her just for 3 months, went back home, and then my residency permit came through, and now I'm a resident, and I've been here for 1 full year. So this is where I live.
I just super love seeing your photos together, and I can't wait to put hearts
Oh,
in the comment section.
yeah, we have a lot of fun. We have
I
a lot
love
of fun,
seeing
and
you
we're
all
both
together.
silly, and we're both goofy
Yeah.
and open-hearted, and we have
I
our
love
beautiful
it.
kittens, our fur babies, and you know,
I
yeah,
know. They're
yeah,
everywhere. They're hilarious. I love seeing them too. And like in your stories, they're so funny. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And then the funny part is like it's almost like you're trying to get a reaction from them and they're just like off in their own world, like doing their own thing, you
they
know?
are,
It's so
typical
cute.
cats, right? Typical cats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know. And when I see their behavior is, I say, yep,
Yeah,
I'm not
you can even
surprised.
see. Check this out. These are our other kitties, and this is kind of fun. You see, this is Dee Dee and Dottie. And these two kitties,
Oh,
they're oh my
oh my
God, they're
gosh,
so
they're
cute. They're
adorable.
back in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Um,
Mm-mm.
and my mom,
Yeah, I remember
yeah,
you
but
had to
they are my
leave
mom's
them.
kitties, and
Yeah.
she got them though for us and for my niece as healing kitties because she had found out that cats can actually
Mm.
help calm you to a degree that they help with bone healing and injury healing. And I'm just a cat lover, and it was just such a blessing that she gifted us with that time in their first year of life to like cuddle with them. And when we got out here, we're like, we need our own kitties too. So,
Mhm.
but we're first on the list if they ever,
Totally.
like, we'll invite them over here, make it international.
If they want
Yeah,
to be, yeah, if they want to be adopted, yeah, or no, 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 no,
exactly.
no. If
Yeah,
they
make
want
them
to
international.
relocate, I love it. So tell us then, please, Chris, in your opinion, how friendly is Sweden, or at least the areas that you are familiar with? How friendly are these cities, towns in Sweden for vegans and raw vegans?
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
know you do your own thing, which I would love to touch on for a couple minutes as well. But in general, for a person who is not as resourceful as you are and who doesn't have decades of
yeah.
experience like you do, um, in your opinion, how friendly is it for
Well,
a
I'm going
plant
to answer that in
eater?
two parts. And the first part I'm just going to mention, I think, how friendly people and spaces are is interdependent upon the energy you bring to the equation, and like if you're feeling confident and you're happy and you're smiling at people, you're going to get a lot more smiles, a lot more hands, and a lot more open hearts. And I think some cultures are a little bit less likely to be the first to initiate smiles and connection. But if you put yourself out there, then you're breaking that ice, and that's kind of the foot I always try to put forward, unless I'm in a space where I don't want to, which of course that happens to everyone, of course.
Of
But that
course,
said,
yeah, yeah.
Sweden's lovely. It's really lovely. It's very similar to where I grew up, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Very kind people, open-hearted, and in terms of vegetarian, vegan, whole foods, uh, it's actually really, really vegan and vegetarian centered. Not meaning like everyone, but way more than where I'm from.
No, right.
Closer to like California. Like you walk down the street, and a lot of restaurants have a full vegan menu. There are even some grocery stores. Like there's one grocery store that it's a chain grocery store, but one of them is like really pro-vegan and has like entire huge vegan sections. And all of them have like big signs up vegan and a whole like way more than most places. And I remember even like, I think about 7 or 8 years ago, the first time I came to Sweden, because I've been out in Sweden and Denmark a bunch for raw food festivals and stuff, some other stuff I love doing. But I remember going to one of those grocery stores and just seeing huge vegan signs, and I was blown away because I was like, 7, 8 years ago, I didn't see those in Canada or much in the
Mm,
States except for maybe New York and Los
yeah.
Angeles.
N- yeah,
So
yeah.
it's yeah, definitely there's a lot of awareness, and it's not one of those
Hmm.
things where when you say you're vegan or you're a raw foodist that people are like, what's that? Whereas it definitely used to be that way.
Right. No, because for example, I visited places where a couple of the servers, for example, thought that
Yeah.
vegans, eat cheese or vegans eat
Of
fish. Like
course you eat
they
fish.
still in their minds, they're thinking of vegetarians and pescatarians, which I was for over 20 years before I
Yep.
went vegan. So I understand, I was in my own little world. I understand that, everyone
No.
doesn't move as quickly with the
Cheese was a hard
times
one
because
to
I
give up.
certainly didn't. However,
No.
I heard, for me, no, but I've heard it. Well, it's very addictive with that casein in it, and who knows what else they're putting
Yeah.
in these
Yeah.
commercial cheeses anyway.
Yeah.
It's a bunch
Yeah.
of
It's like
junk
it's
in
like
it
foodborne
anyway.
opium.
Yeah. And so
Yeah, it's crazy.
I heard. And for anyone who's watching and listening, don't take our word for
Absolutely.
it. Do your own research. Google it. You're gonna see what casein
Yeah.
really does
Yeah.
to our bodies. And I sometimes tell people, you know, it's normal that the milk of a cow or a sheep or a goat or a camel, whomever's milk we're consuming to create what we call dairy, it's normal that their milk is addictive, quote unquote, to their babies because, of course, we want their babies to
Yeah.
grow to their,
Yeah.
potential, to their optimal potential. So it makes sense that the babies, of course, would want to
Yeah.
keep going back to mother and to mother's milk. And however, we are not the babies of those species, so it's gonna
Absolutely.
play a number on
Especially when
us,
we're
and
talking
so
about like especially when we're
it's really
talking
not
about
optimal.
milk from a species that is like 4 times our size, grows 4 times as fast as us, which ends up actually producing early onset puberty and faster cancer growths and a
Yes.
whole bunch of things. And it's just also, I mean, the whole reality around, there aren't happy cows out there with their babies taken away and artificially inseminated. So I
No.
mean, that's a whole other aspect. And no matter which way you research, whether we're talking about human health, the ecology, or the animal rights, it's going to hit home every single way you research. So, yeah, I think what is it? Notmilk.com maybe is it? And dairy is scary. Like if you still think that you're a baby cow and you should be sucking on that teat. I mean, no, there's a lot of other better options. And it's kind of crazy too. Like there's good reason why milk contains opiate-like substances because yeah, they want to calm down the baby as they're eating and get them all relaxed and create that bond between the mother during that stage where it's so important, right? But no other animal drinks past its infancy, and there's definitely zero need for us to consume a white fluid. If you like, so you still can. You can have the almond, the Oatly, so many different things, right? Oatly is huge out here, right? But
There,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
101B.
No, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. This is
I'll try and
Chris's
be more
show.
mindful.
This is Chris's show. No, 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 no. And thank you for mentioning that here, our guest here. I appreciate you looking out for me, but it's all good. It's all good. So listen, Chris, tell us please about your coaching program, your recipes, your products, any combination that you want to
Well,
give us
let's
an
see.
overview of.
Well,
What should we
I'll
know?
first just start off by saying that, I have a raw food app that's called the Raw Advantage Raw Recipes. It's free to download, has over 100 free recipes, as well as a whole bunch of recipe videos that connect to the main recipe videos on my website. It's got a cool shopping list and a bunch of information in there. And it's also the least expensive way to unlock and utilize all of my other books. I've been doing this full time for 12 years, so I've written, I think, 9 books on mostly recipe books, but there are some informational based books. And all those are on my website. The two main ones also, they are lower price, but they are also available by donation if people can't afford them for some reason. You can just reach out to me. Since the very beginning, I've offered consultations by donation. It's just what I've felt called to do, as I've been really helped by people very graciously in my past. And I've also grown up as a pretty trife, some people would say, individual with just not a lot of money. I used to live off $7,000 a year for many of my younger years. So I like to help anyone, no matter what their financial situation is. And then I also do have other programs and things that are a little bit more cash for those who really want to take it super seriously and want more structure. But yeah, that's kind of the main stuff. It's all at therawdvantage.com, and I share a ton here on Instagram, of course, at the Raw Advantage, and on my YouTube channel, all that stuff. And you can always hit me up with a DM or a question, and I'm always happy to connect.
Awesome. So tell us a bit more about the inspiration behind your recipes. Whenever I think of you, Chris Kendall, I think of, for some
Yeah, yeah.
reason, raw pizzas. And when I'm speaking with other people about the raw plant lifestyle, if they're like, kind of at a loss for like
Yeah.
how exciting can it be, I mentioned, well, you can make raw pizzas. Go look over at, the Raw Advantage, Chris Kendall, go look over there. So what is the inspiration behind your recipes?
Well, it's kind of funny because the first 5 years as a raw foodist, I was what would be considered a simple, low-fat, hygienic raw vegan. So what that means is basically I didn't eat anything that I wouldn't give to a baby or that I wouldn't make a full meal of. So for the first 5 years as raw, I didn't have any spices except for some carob and some cinnamon. I didn't have hot peppers. I didn't have garlic. I didn't have onions. I didn't really make complex recipes. It was just usually 1 to 5 ingredients, and really just fruit and greens was the absolute mainstay, very low fat. And it felt amazing. It worked really, really good. As time went on, I wanted to explore culinary creativity. And what I saw out there, this is about, 13 years ago, was that there was kind of 2 camps. It was like really simple raw food, like I was making, and there wasn't really many, if any, other raw food recipe book that I saw out there. Besides, there was some in the back of the 80-10-10 book that Doug had, and he had his own recipe book. And then the other side was really high fat gourmet raw that was like using a bunch of ingredients that I didn't like to use, and usually like upwards of 50-60% fat, like very, very high fat. And through my knowledge and experience, I found that just really didn't serve me and my vitality in the way that I wanted to, and it wasn't something I wanted to present. So I started wanting to create what I call cravings busters raw recipes that merges both worlds, that gives you the flavor of raw gourmet, but instead that it's a low fat raw gourmet with food combining as a main theme, and the more you learn, the more you are able to bend, so I do bend food combining sometimes, and I see it more as a tool rather than a black and white rule. But that's been really my aim. So the last, I guess now 12 years, 11 years, I've really expanded my cuisine from super simple, hygienic, which that's my first 2 books, 101 Frickin' Rawson Recipes and 50 More Frickin' Rawson Recipes. those are straight up hygienic. That's what I would consider the backbone of a very healthy raw food diet. And then some of my other books, like
I
TRA
agree.
Retreat Treats, that was my first Cravings Busters, kind of released out to the world. Some of my favorites that I served at the numerous retreats I've held around the world. And then from there, I made American Classics, which I co-wrote with Dr. Doug Graham and Naturally Ashley. And then from there, I ended up writing the pizza book after, I guess, a couple other books. But the pizza book is one that I wrote that really, like, I've made a ton of different kinds of recipes from, like cabbage rolls to shepherd's pie to burgers to like, you name it, but pizza was one that I didn't really find any raw recipes of that I enjoyed or that I made really felt like this is pizza. Like some were like crispy crackers or like different things. And I'm
Mhm.
not trying to throw shade by any means.
Mm.
I never had any that I was like,
No,
this
no,
is
right,
pizza,
right.
And so I really started working on pizza recipes. I came up with one that's on my website. It's called Deluxe Hawaiian, Raw Vegan Deluxe Hawaiian Pizza. And so that was the first big pizza book or recipe that I put out there. It's on my website. You can get the crust, the sauce, the cheese, everything. And from there, I continued developing. And then I wrote Frickin' Rawesome Pizza, which it was about 5 years of R&D to develop that book. And it did kind of hit the raw food world
Amazing.
pretty good. And a lot of people know me by my pizza. Um, and I can honestly say that it's like
Yeah.
I like that pizza better than 95, 99% of the cooked pizzas I've had in my life. Um, and it really tastes like raw pizza or like real pizza, right? So that one's fun. And that's available on my app. It's also on my website as a paper book on 100% recycled paper or as an ebook. So
Cool, cool. Um, Now, one point that I really wanted you to spend a couple minutes on
yeah,
regarding like when you go out, because I've been fascinated by this, and it links back to what you were saying about, how friendly is it to, for example, to eat for a plant eater, let's say in Sweden. And I've noticed that, at least in one or more of your posts, that you mentioned something along the lines of you went somewhere and you were with your lady, and she was eating her meal, and you brought your own, shall we
hmm,
say, meal, and it was
yeah,
totally fine, and you just took out your fruits and whatever you were eating,
yeah.
and it was totally fine. How do you recommend that we navigate that, I guess, strategy when
Well,
we're
I
out and
mean, first,
about?
what I'd say is that anything new is a stretch. Anything new is going to be a little challenging. Anything new is going to catch you a little bit off balance. So the first time you go to a friend's house, the first time you go to a wedding, the first time you go to a restaurant, the first time you're at a picnic, the first time you're basically doing anything, it's going to be maybe a little bit awkward, right? But we have the opportunity to see it
Mhm,
as a challenge and something to grow with, and we have the opportunity to choose what we're
mhm,
focusing on. So the first thing that I'd invite everyone to do is to shift the focus to why they're going to these public events and places in the first place, and in general, for me, I'm going for connection. I'm going to see people. And if that's what we focus on, it makes it so much
mhm,
easier and so much better. And then, we're less thinking about like, oh, my food's different and this and that. So that's a big
mm,
one. It also just offers an
mm,
opportunity to really connect with people on what's alive in you, and that this is a little awkward, but I'm here to see you, so it becomes real talk, and that can often get people to ask you questions from more of a heartfelt place rather than with worry because they see you feeling anxious or really like self kind of looking at, oh my God, what's going on here, like, because again, it is really what we focus on that people will end up noticing, and they'll feel our energy. So if we're feeling awkward and looking at what we're doing and thinking we're so different, well, they're going to feel that, So that's a big one. And otherwise, the second probably biggest tip besides that is just to be prepared. Like if you realize, yeah, I'm going to end up in some situations that are either a little challenging or could be a little awkward, plan for it. Think ahead. Like, how
mhm.
can I make this easier? If I'm going to a restaurant, I may call ahead. I may just bring a big bag of food and say,
Yeah,
when I get there, talk to the waitress. I've
yeah.
had times where I've separated, just told my friends like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. But when I leave the table, I go talk to the
Yeah.
waitress and just let her know. So it doesn't make a scene at the table. I just
Yes.
say, hey, I'm on a different diet. I have a bag of some fruit. Is it okay if I have that? Still
Yes.
order a salad, you know, and so you can prepare that
Yeah.
way. If you're going
Yeah.
to a friend's house or you're going out somewhere else, you can bring your own dish. And I would recommend you make more than you need because people ask for some, you know. It never hurts to pre-eat. I'll tell you that too, especially with fruit. Like, oftentimes if
Mhm.
I'm going to an event or out to a movie or anywhere like that, I'll just have a big smoothie before I get there. So that when I get there, it doesn't matter if I have anything or if I just have a little salad. I'm not hungry. I'm not thinking about it. My belly is the last thing on my mind, and I'm there and present to be connecting with people, And I also, the last thing I'll say is I like to have fun with it. People might say stuff and say like, "Oh, what are you, a monkey?" Or "You, what are this?" Like, "Are you a, whatever?" Right? They might say some stuff, and I eat back at them. I laugh, say, "Yeah, I am." Blah blah blah. Like there's so many ways that you can play with it and have fun. I've been known to show up to parties with with a 40-ounce beer bottle filled with smoothie in a paper bag and pretend I'm swilling, beer. But then, like, if they ask, like, oh, yeah, banana smoothie, it's really hard, super hard stuff, And I've gone out to bars with bok choy in my pocket, and I've, I've brought, I've brought bananas. Oh, yeah, like I have it sticking out of my pocket,
No.
dancing on the dance floor, having just as much fun as anyone. And I've brought melons and bananas to bars and asked the bartender to blend them into a 2-liter smoothie and serve it in a beer jug. And I'll be like, I'll give you a $5 tip if you just blend my bananas for me. Like people are
Yeah.
accommodating. And if you're
Yeah.
confident, the worst that can happen is they say, you know what? No, we can't do that. And then it's your call to make a big deal of that or
Right,
not.
of
Like,
course.
you know,
No.
not every situation is going to go as smooth as you'd wish, but at the end of the day, it's just one moment in time, and
Mhm.
you can have some water and just connect with people instead, right?
Mhm. I agree. So someone here made a
Yeah,
comment, innovative. I like that. That is so interesting. The bok
I love
choy
bok
really
choy.
has me. I mean, you. Oh, me
Yeah,
too. Me too. I put it in my smoothies. It tastes like perfume when you eat it by itself. Like, because I cut off a piece and eat it before I chop it up and put it in my smoothies, and it tastes like perfume. Like
I
I'm
find
eating
it so
perfume or
salty, and
something.
it also they make great spoons. So sometimes like I make a stew, and I'll chop up the stem
Mm.
portion, and I'll leave one full like hole, and then I'll
Yeah.
just use that stem as a spoon, and yeah,
Y-
it's also
Yeah.
amazingly on the nutritional side. It's one of the most protein rich, one of the highest in
Yeah.
calcium and iron.
Mhm.
It's a really really nutritious green
Mhm.
per calorie, and it's usually also one of the cheaper ones too. So it's super nice. Fennel's
Yeah.
good.
And fennel. Yeah, the fennel root also has
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of spoon at the bottom. If you wanted to use that, that's really cool. You are innovative. I think that adjective suits you very well. This is awesome. So, Chris, what do we need to know about your YouTube
Well,
channel?
I would say unlike some other channels, it's all over the place. Like I like to share everything I'm about. So it really does range from skateboarding to day in the life to raw recipes to very specific nutrition related topics to just random weird stuff. And one of my most popular videos, actually my by far my most popular video, is about me getting a tattoo on my taint, like with my legs up in the air. And it's a ridiculous video. I have a couple tattoo videos. Um, so
You have a lot of
yeah,
tattoos. That's why I chose that photo for the flyer because I love like all the tattoos. And I was like, oh my gosh! I mean, the fruit is nice. Of course, you're nice, but I was
oh,
like,
well,
oh, the
thank you.
tattoos
My
are
my
so
artist Pat, he
beautiful.
was he was actually in here. I don't know if you're in there right now, but what's up, Pat? I saw him he was watching earlier today. So he's an awesome tattoo artist, and I've got probably 90% of my
Oh my
tattoos from him.
gosh! Wow.
Yeah, he
Is he in
works at
Canada
actually I guess
or?
co-owns Rites of Passage in Canada in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and he's got a bit of a waiting list because he's an amazing artist. He did my first
I
tattoo too when I was 16
imagine.
years old that I hid from my parents, because I wasn't really supposed to at that time, but I'd known him since I was like 12 through skateboarding, so or younger than that.
Amazing. Oh my
Almost
gosh, we have a
perfect.
commenter just about to have a massive raw meal. Well, bon
Heck yeah.
appetit to
Heck yeah.
you. Oh my gosh. So, so Chris, do you have any future projects or services or products that you want to
I
share
got a
at
lot
this
of stuff going
time?
on. I won't lie. I have things for the next probably 15 years that if I work, at the speed I'm doing it, probably 15 years. If I worked like nonstop, it'd probably still be like 7 years. I kind of like to work part time and have a lot of free time to skateboard. So, life's too short, right? So, but
I
let's see,
agree.
I'm almost done my last in a series of 21-day meal plans, which I'm excited about. So I created seasonal meal plans, so like a winter meal plan, a spring, fall, and I'm
Mm,
just going to be launching my summer meal plan on April 1st. So you can stay tuned for that. I definitely recommend checking that out. This is the first time I've actually shared that I'm launching that then. So I'm really stoked, and I've just been like nose to the grinder the
nice.
last while to finish that up. I'm going to be also just really, really digging into my website and turning up the notch on there to make it a little bit more automated and easier for people to navigate. And a couple really fun things that, when you have my recipe books, you can actually create meal plans and menus through my recipe books on the website as well. So that'll be coming in the future. And I have more courses and mini courses planned in the future. And of course, eventually more retreats and all that other stuff as it gets a little bit easier to be meeting in 3D. But in these days and times, I'm focusing more on the back end and the ways to connect online because that's just what the world's serving up. So yeah, which is
It's all
great though. I mean, I
virtual.
love it because, for example,
Yeah.
for over a decade, I just did one-on-one coaching in the donation and 3-month courses and stuff like that. And then when I started the Raw Vegan Lifestyle Success
Mhm.
System, I started it as like a group course where I'd have anywhere from 5 to 25 people in a room at once. And it is fun. It's just like a party, right? And like everyone benefits off of each other's questions and insights and thoughts. And so I love doing that as well. So
Mhm.
it's all fun that way. It's a little bit more personal when you're in a little group like that. You can go into so many different topics, and yeah, so it's lots of fun. I love doing it. And that's what keeps me going.
Awesome. So we have a question. What are some good dehydrators, I guess, that you would
Shredwin,
recommend or to
love that
get
name.
if you are
That's a fun
willing
name.
to share?
Yeah, honestly, I think the best dehydrator out there is just the basic, tried and true Excalibur dehydrator. The 9 tray, it's used by the most raw chefs in the world and has the longest track record. It's a bit of an investment, but you can get them on sale for between about 199 to
Mhm.
250 bucks usually, which they're pretty awesome. The first decade on a raw food diet, I didn't have a dehydrator at all. And then the second half here, I've used them more to create more recipes, and they can be a heck of a lot of fun. But they're not a necessity. But I'd say the Excalibur.
Right.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
I think that's like next level. I think like the elementary kind of, beginners elementary level would be what you were doing before. Maybe not as, shall we say, um, what do I want to say? Well, like you were
Yeah,
excluding certain spices and things like that. So maybe not, at that point. However, just basically not having gadgets or just leaning more into the raw fruits, the whole fruits, the mono meals, the salads, like that. And then, you level up, quote unquote, and you get a blender, and you level up and you get a juicer, you level up, you get a dehydrator, you level up and you take some courses or all mixed up in there together.
we're
So,
blessed with the best
you know,
tools that we could ever
um,
have right here, right? And the absolute best meals just are grabbed, ripped, and eaten. And when you awaken to that and recognize that
I
fruit
agree.
is just perfect as it is, and Mother Nature is a better chef than any of us trying to play with her
Mm-hmm.
gifts, your health will go to a whole new level. And so
Mm-hmm.
I make recipes, I make recipe books, I encourage people into the raw food, into eating more healthfully through inventive recipes that mimic old favorites. But I also just really, really encourage people to get in touch with Mother
Mm-hmm.
Nature's bounty and to enjoy her gifts, right? So My favorite meals are very simple, 1 to 3 ingredients. Those are what I make the backbone of my lifestyle is based on. I love my pizzas, but I might only make them for myself a couple times a year, maybe 5 times a year, and usually for guests, right? To make them real.
Right.
Yeah, it's a party, and
Right. It's a
it doesn't just have
party.
to be bananas and celery all the time, right? But I love my bananas and celery.
Although those are, I was gonna say those are
Yeah.
yummy too. So we have a question. What's your opinion on ink particles from tattoo migrating through the lymphatic system and the bloodstream and into
Well,
the
you know,
lymph
it's interesting because
nodes?
I didn't get tattoos for health. You know, like that wasn't my main motivation for getting tattoos. And we all make compromises. You know, if you live in a city or you use a phone or you use Wi-Fi, you know, you use wireless headphones, you know, whatever we choose, we live with the consequences. And as far as the tattoos go, you know, I started getting tattoos when I was 16 before I even considered health. By the time I went vegan, I realized that there was such a thing as vegan tattoos. So I strived to get the best
Yeah,
quality ink, and I researched that. And you know, the
yeah.
vegan tattoo here was all with vegan ink, and so I mean, yeah, there still is probably some negative qualities to having ink injected and held in suspension in your adipose, or not your adipose, but the lower layers of your skin. But I have had what's it called? Allergy testing and sensitivity testing via different means, and it doesn't seem to be any negative qualities. I haven't noticed anything. I have noticed, the day after a tattoo, I feel kind of heavy and a little worn out, but then it passes. As I think being on this lifestyle and diet, my body's able to handle and clear out to the best extent possible. I also, I'm knowledgeable about heavy metal detoxification and stuff like that, and the quality of inks I use don't contain those heavy metals that some crappy quality ones can have, but still my eliminatory organs and the overall vitality I have, I feel like I tolerate and am able also to keep the quality of tattoos better than the average bear, so for me it's a worthwhile potential sacrifice. I have no misgivings. um, I've gotten many tattoos since I went vegan, since I went raw, since I've been on my health journey. I'm almost done. I might get a couple other ones, but I have no personal concerns. But again, it's not something that I'm recommending for health. Although it's kind of funny, I thought it would be pretty cool to formulate what's it called, vitamin or mineral supplement based inks that would have certain nutritional qualities that would potentially slowly leak in. So like long lasting. I doubt you could do it with vitamin B12, but just as like a thought concept that could be funny. I've said that
Wow.
before, like, oh yeah, no,
Cool.
these are actually
Sign me
supplemental
up.
ones, that
Sign
have
me
like very slow releasing X, Y, or Z. But yeah, that could be positive or negative, but it's a funny concept anyway.
I love that. So well, first of all, thank you for that question about the tattoos. That was awesome. Um, a question here. Are dried or dehydrated fruits
Yeah,
still
absolutely. I
good
mean,
to
everything is
consume?
relative, right? I'm going to point towards whole, fresh, ripe, raw plant foods as the number one, high water content, things that you enjoy
Mm,
eating that
mm,
digest smoothly and easily, that you could eat as a meal. I think those are going to be
mm,
A tier foods, right? Um, whether it's juiced or whether it's dried, there is some processing and it's going to change the quality and some of the nutrition in the food to some degree, but I still enjoy dried fruits on occasion. I don't make them the center of my meals unless it's out of necessity, So I love dates, for example, but I'll generally blend them with water and maybe some greens, or water and some bananas or some other fruit in order to create a little bit higher water content and make them a little less dense. But a handful of raisins in a banana porridge, or some dried tomatoes or dried mango in a sauce to thicken it up and add a different tang, a flavor. All of those things can be great. And
mm.
sometimes I even take dates and I push them into a celery stick and eat a meal of that when I'm traveling. It's one of the easiest travel foods because it can't get squished, really. It doesn't go bad very quick, and it's very satiating and inexpensive. So it's a good go-to travel food.
Mm.
But yeah, all it has its time and place. It's just I wouldn't make it the center of your diet.
Right, right. So we said that that
Yeah,
was his skateboard name. And then we have a hashtag plant-based
absolutely.
is the future. I hope so.
Absolutely.
Vegan is the future. So Chris, tell us, what are the best ways for people to contact you for information,
Well,
collaboration,
you can
questions, and
always
comments?
DM me here on Instagram. I check my messages there. Sometimes I forget if you're brand new and I haven't, seen you in my regular inbox, sometimes it takes me a couple of days because I forget to check the other inbox, but I do check everything. Um,
Yeah.
Otherwise, my website has a contact me, and I do have a direct email, chris at
Mhm.
therawadvantage.com. So you can hit me up there. And I'll admit, I used to be a little better. I used to make sure that I responded within 24 hours. I've slipped, and sometimes it takes 48 or a little bit longer. But life has gotten a little bit busier, and there's a couple more fingers and hands pulling. But I always try and get back as soon as I possibly can.
Awesome. So, Chris, before we wrap this up and have you put a bow on it for us, I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to come on and chat with us. I want to thank everybody who joined, either live or on the replay. Thanks for your good energy. And, Chris, I want to ask you, what are your final thoughts for us to just wrap this up and put a bow on it for
Well,
us,
I
please?
often say it, but what I would just say is, just have fun. Health and nutrition, it doesn't have to be super serious or like intimidating, or like it can be anything you really want it to be. But the way I really find that I thrive and is just focusing on the foods I absolutely love the most from Mother Nature's gifts, whole plant foods. Keep it juicy, keep it sweet. It's really hard to overdo fruits and vegetables, right? It's self-delimiting. So eat with abundance and feel blessed by the gifts, because it really does bless you back. So
That's beautiful. We have a thanks for the knowledge. Been following you for a long
pleasure. Hit me
time.
up. Hopefully we can go skate
Awesome.
sometime,
Me
Fredwin.
too. Yeah, that would be cool. All right. Well, Chris, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna save this to IGTV, my stories and my feed,
Awesome,
and then I'm
awesome.
gonna
Yeah, I'll
message you
share it as well.
after. So thank you. Awesome. So thank you so much, Chris, again. Take good care. Thanks, everybody, and I hope to
Thanks so
see you all
much.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Take good care,
Thanks,
everybody.
Angela.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.